Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavai Tejasvinavaditam Astu Ma Vidvishavai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May that one protect us both. May that one nourish us both. May we work together with great energy and vigor. May our study be illumined. May we not unnecessarily cavil with each other. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Om Shri Rama Rama Ramati Rame Rama Manorami Sahasranama Taturyam Ramanama Varani. I delight in the beautiful name of Shri Ram, again, for even once remembered. The name of Sri Rama bestows fruit equal to the 1,000 names of Lord Vishnu. Om Ramaya, Rama, Putraya, Ramachandraya, Vedasi, Raghunathaya, Nataya, Sitaya, Pataya, Namaha. With salutations again to Lord Rama, who is present in all beings as Rama, as Ramapadra, Ramachandra, Lord of the Lagu Vamsa, husband of Sita. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. So, we now continue our ongoing story of Rama. And it's necessary just to review, just in brief, the drama that is unfolding in the royal palace in Ayodhya. So, as we know, in great detail, there was a drama whereby everybody is in celebratory mood. Rama has been selected as the successor to King Dasaratha. Everybody is in joyous mood. We can imagine the scene, everybody hanging banners, decorating the streets. But in the inner royal chambers, we know that a drama has just unfolded. And we know that Mantra has come and has sown seeds of doubt, fear, and temptation in Queen Kaikayi, who in normal circumstances is loving, is stable, is heroic, has all the wonderful qualities that makes her the favorite queen. And we know that she has done some service to her husband, King Dasaratha, and that he has promised her 2 boons, 2 gifts. And she has never fulfilled these wishes to date. And so she has now gone into a kind of crying room. This is not a room for disturbing babies. This is a room for disturbed royalty to show something is wrong. A very organized way of grieving. And so this is the state, and she's about to ask these 2 boons. Just to refresh your memory, why? Because several threats are there. Firstly, she is the favorite queen. If Rama becomes queen, then a king, then his mother will now be the favorite queen. So is the suggestion. And secondly, her own son Bharata will be in danger because in those ancient days, if there was any threat to the royal lineage or the royal inheritance, you did away even with your brother if you did not follow Dharma. Of course, Rama follows Dharma and is the embodiment of Dharma. So King Dasaratha now has completed, all the necessary arrangements for Rama's installation as his successor, as the Yuvaraja. And he thought it proper personally to convey the happy greetings to Kaikeyi, who is the queen mother of Bharata, who is currently now locked in mourning. And so he's looking for her, and he's directed towards her apartments. And as he does that, there's a sentinel, a soldier, standing guard he tells him, see, the queen has actually resorted to the anger room, a special room for this. And with concern on the face, on the king's face, the king rushes hurriedly. He's extremely concerned. And he stops in the room or just outside the room. And he finds, as he enters, a terrible, terrible scene. He finds his spouse drowned in despondency, lying on the floor, tresses disheveled, ornaments scattered, dresses dirtied. It's not just anger, it's not just distress and grief. It is a dramatic demonstration things are not well and need urgent attention. And so the king would have addressed his wife in endearing terms, darling, for example, I don't know the cause of your distress. Has anybody slighted you, insulted you, is the first thing that comes to his mind. Or maybe you are not well. Maybe you're physically ill. Shall we call a doctor, a physician? Actually, if anybody has dishonored you to the extent that you are so angry and grieving, then I will immediately call them. You tell me who it is, I'll punish them. So be assured, it's already accomplished. It's already done. I'll not act against your wish, even to save my own life. I swear upon the merits I have all along acquired that your grievances will be set right. The king has no idea how this is going to unfold. It's going to be a shock when she asks how to relieve her distress. I'm not sick, she replies. Nobody has wronged me. I just have a wish, a great, profound desire that you can fulfill. And you alone can do it. If the great wish is to be, if you assure me that you will do everything in your power to relieve my distress, then I shall ask for it. So, of course, Dasaratha, innocently with a sweet smile, he caresses her on the head and says, well, you know that among women, you are the foremost to me, even as among men. I'll fulfill anything you want me to do. That's what he promises. And of course, just as Rama is the foremost, you are the foremost among women. Rama is invincible. He's the best among men. He's the best upon my progeny. He is my life. Now look at the contrast. He's about to extol, or he is already extolling the virtues of Rama. Rama is the problem from her point of view. If I part with him, I will perish. See how the drama is building now. So, what is our lesson in life from this? All our expectations are pretty dangerous. When we have expectations and they mount emotionally, then a small disappointment can easily push us into the depths of despair and hopelessness. Upon that, Rama, I swear unto you that whatever you ask for will be conceded. Look at the irony of it. And so Kaikeyi gathers up the newly instilled evil ideas that she has engendered in her mind now, and she presents them now, and she presents them emphatically. She starts off by reminding him, you have sworn you would carry out my demand. Yes. Let the celestials, terrestrials, and all the beings of the nether regions bear witness to your commitment. She wants to make sure this promise is ensured. And I must remind you of the two boons you granted me. I haven't asked for anything to this date. I nursed you on the battlefield in this battle with celestials and with the demons in the battle between the devas and the demons that we mentioned last week. And so now I'm going to ask for them. So you are bound to bestow any wish I have, these two boons, at least these two boons on me. Well, the first request, she dives straight into it. That Bharata be enthroned using the very articles gathered for Rama's installation tomorrow. That's the first request. Then the second request is that Rama be clad in bark, be divested of his royal accoutrements and clothings, and should retire into the forest this very day and live there in austerity for 14 years. Why 14? Well, 7 is a rhythmic number in the universe. And so we don't say 15, we don't say 16, we don't say 13. We give a multiple of 7. 7 years and maybe not enough. 7 years would be too auspicious. 14 years is enough. After 14 years, the kingdom is nicely established by Bharata. Bharata is the accepted king. You can't make any change. And why dress in bark? Well, if you're going off to the forest, then you're going off for 2 reasons. Firstly, you're away from the situation. But secondly, you now are part of nature. And the inference is you'll live the life of an ascetic, not as a royal. This has a great advantage for most people, that in your older age you can do this. You remember that there was a system in the ancient days. First 25 years of your life, studentship. You complete your primary education is completed by your parents, mother and father. And then after that, you go into a householder life, the next 25 years. You again create some progeny, create your position in society. Only here does caste apply. Your role applies in society. And then you and your wife return to retire, and you complete any unfulfilled legitimate desires that you may have. And after all of that is now completed, and life is satisfactory, having established ethical and moral values, a good base, a solid base for good citizenry, having done your duty as a householder, having then fulfilled any outstanding desires and completed any outstanding strands in life, the next thing you then go and pursue moksha into the forest. And the suggestion is you're going into this 4th stage. So there's an advantage normally in this 4th stage. You're now looking for completing this wandering life and getting closer to your divine destiny. For normal people, that would be appropriate. But now, in the prime of youth, Rama is about to take responsibility. It's his duty to take over the kingdom. In normal circumstances, this would be the case. So it is going against the grain on the one hand, and yet having some advantages on the other. But for the overall good is how we judge it. It's not a good thing. It's a tragedy. And Dasaratha has just extolled, Rama is my very life. If Rama perishes, I perish. Now he's being asked to push his son away for 14 years. No contact. And what about the impact on all the citizens? How will they feel as well? And of course, with any desire that is selfish, that is based on misunderstandings, that is based on ignorance, in anything like this, it obscures our vision. There's no thought what people would think about her, how the king will react to his favorite wife. None of this is being considered. The impact, the good of society, none of this is considered. It's not considered, did we consult Bharata, who also loves Rama? Does he also have these suspicions? None of this is considered. All rationale is thrown out of the window. When we become emotional, rationale disappears, diminishes. And that is exactly what has happened. So naturally, this demand comes like a bolt from the blue. It's not expected. And Dasaratha is now in a daze. And it takes him some time to recover. Of course, the first thing we would think of, are you really serious? Why are you asking this? But the promise has been made. Then, having reviewed it nicely and seen, oh, this is a serious thing, the queen is absolutely serious about this. He breaks out into wrathful censure. See how quickly our mood can change. Oh, darling, oh, my love, you are my favorite queen. Now anger comes. Now he speaks in angry tones. You can see how love can quickly disappear in certain circumstances. So the dialogue, as Valmiki puts it, goes something like this. Having sworn again and again that he'll fulfill her wish, he looks at her, and the description is quite detailed. Okay, I'm bypassing the ultimate detailed description, which is a little repetitive in a sense. So, you, the despicable creature, he's now saying, you, the embodiment of sin, you, the destroyer of this family, what harm has Rama or I done to you? He's now presenting not only anger, but he's also presenting some consequences that are not considered. How will people view you? You have now become the embodiment of sin. You have now become the destroyer of the whole family. In one stroke, you have destroyed the family. And then the query, why? What has Rama done to you? What have I done to you? Why are you punishing me like this? Ram is always more devoted and serviceable to you than even to his own mother. He's trying to work it out. Still, you have chosen to hurt him. I have fostered in this mansion a venomous snake in you. What terrible language he's using. What charge shall I bring against my beloved son Rama, who is adored and universally by all? Another thing not considered. I may renounce Kausalya, Sumitra, the kingly wealth, and my life even, but I will not abandon my son. The world may get on without the sun, cultivation may go on without water, but my life will not linger in this body without Rama. O designer of destruction, deign to desist from this devilish design. I implore you, placing my hand on your feet, I'm now begging you. Don't do this. Take this back. But he's also confused. He doesn't know. Why is this being asked? And Dasaratha now trembles before Kaikeyi, even as a deer facing a tigress. And the emperor's enraged emotion expresses itself in many, many various forms. And so Valmiki describes how he would swoon and sink to the ground in despair, regain consciousness, and then cajole her. Overwhelmed with grief, he would faint and fall flat on the floor. And abandoning the royal dignity and regal respect, the old monarch wept bitterly at the feet of his obstinate wife. In such distress, all our unconscious memories of our childhood come out. And we try any means. You can't get what you want, you stamp, you cry. Your whole dignity is gone. That king that sat in the palace that ruled for so many years and made significant judgments and decisions is now completely weakened. All night passed in begging, imploring, and then change it to wrathful anger, upbraiding, earnest entreaties, and woeful weeping. But none of this was of any avail. And her will was ironclad. And the willful woman stuck to a demand of the full fulfillment of her promise. When we get an idea in our head, right or wrong, and it obsesses us, relatively right, then our emotions take over and it changes our whole will. We become determined to fulfill what we want. Could this be a dream, Dasaratha is thinking? Could this be a result of a disordered brain? I just disbelieve. Now, if we look at the components of grief in a more modern context, I often mention the process of bereavement that is laid out classically from a great deal of research. And the first thing that hits us, even in small disappointments, will be disbelief. I can't believe it. Then when we rally round and the belief changes to, yes, this is a factual thing, there's a physical feeling in the gut. And then it comes to anger comes out, guilt comes out, blaming comes out, all kinds of different emotions come out. Until we have to accept the issue and then see how we can rationally deal with it. So all of these things are really echoes of what everybody is going through when they come across disappointments. There's a question in text. Why didn't he forsake his wife and choose the son, since her request was clearly harmful to all? It's a very, very good question. It's centered around the whole theme of this text, and that is dharma. You've made a promise. You've repeated your promise. Now, what will you have to do? You will have to be truthful. So this is emphasizing the value of truthfulness. Supposing now he abandons his wife, attached as he was to her, then will he be setting an example? You made a promise, you're not fulfilling it. Supposing a ruler makes a promise, as politicians do today. Oh, if you elect me, I'll change all the road systems. I'll relieve poverty. I'll invest money in social services and healthcare. Every politician makes this claim. Then when they get in, they see, well, maybe not so easy. And in many governments today, there is the class of people, the civil service, who run things, and the politicians who are really running their political affairs. It was a wonderful, wonderful comedic program. I can't remember how long ago it was or where it was. It was a wonderful series. It was a series that seriously studied British politics and put it in the comedic context, showed how ridiculous it was. Of course, all comedy relies on exaggeration. And the series was called Yes, Minister, and eventually Yes, Prime Minister, and shows this dichotomy between the people who run the governments, regardless of political parties, and the politicians who really are looking for their own political gain, career politicians. So is this a blot on the way we run our democracy? Personally, I believe it is, because the ancient days were committed to truthfulness. If I make a promise, I have to keep the promise, come what may, come what may. And of course, the divine will is behind this as well. Without this drama unfolding, we have to be conscious that nothing else will unfold from here on, and ultimately the destruction, which is why Rama has come to be born, the destruction of Ravana does not take place. And so it's a little like the story of Jesus. And people have debated, theologians have debated for eons. Was Judas an instrument in the divine hand to make this resurrection happen and the whole theology behind it and the necessary sacrifice that is so central to Christian theology? Or was he just evil-minded? Was he just selfish? Did he just say, okay, let me make some easy money? Was he disloyal? So these are things that we can probably debate forever. But the context of this story is based around Dharma and truth. So let us see how this unfolds more. So disbelief. And so just to review, unable to stand the confused agony of shapeless terrors, he closes his eyes and becomes unconscious and so on. These are the various descriptions that are going on. And then trying to reason it out. Why are you doing this? Can we reverse it? He can only reverse it if Kaikeyi reverses it. If she reverses it, then all is well. And then looking at the king in this state doesn't do anything for his own image in her eyes. And so her reaction is she doesn't speak any word, and her eyes are blazed full of scornful anger. To this day, you have not caused me any difficulty. Why now? Who has corrupted you? This whole thing goes on for a long time. Is it the same Rama that you now want to be sent to the forest, the one that you have that is loyal to you, that loves you so much, you love him, and so on and so forth? How has this come about? And how can he dwell in the forest? Practical question. How can you even entertain the thought of his going away into the wilderness infested by ferocious beasts? You're asking him to go into war, not just to be dissociated from us, detached from us, but also walk into danger. And how lovingly has Rama treated you and served you? How can you forget all this and steel your heart and utter the words? Send him to the forest, just ruthlessly, in a cold-hearted way. What fault has he committed? And of the hundreds of women in the palace, has anyone ever uttered a word against his honor or his virtue? He's still struggling to find it out. And Kaikeyi is not moving. Again, the argument comes. The whole world loves Rama for his great and good qualities. How did you alone, among so many, in a minority view, find cause to dislike him? Isn't Rama like Indra himself? Is not his face radiant with goodness and spiritual light like a rishi's? The whole world praises his truthfulness and his friendliness, his learning and wisdom, his heroism and his humility. No one has heard a harsh word from his lips, ever. How can I, his father, say to him, son, go to the forest? How can I even tell him this? Or how can I tell anybody else this? Apart from anything else, look at the difficulty of communicating this and giving them a reason why. So his final plea is, have mercy on me, an old man nearing the end of his days. Kaikeyi, ask for anything else in this kingdom. You can ask for anything. You can ask for everything else. I can give you most things. And with folded hands, he begs her, I beg you, do not send to death. Clinging to your feet, I beg you humbly, please save Rama. Save me from the sin of banishing him. So to the king struggling like this in a sea of grief, Kaikeyi, in a pitiless tone, eventually spoke like this. King, and this is the answer to your question, if having promised the boons you regret it and will be forsworn, what sort of king would you be? And what right would you have to speak of truth, satya, and righteousness, dharma? How can you face other kings if you break your promise? Will you shamelessly confess to them? You can see the drama unfolded earlier when Vishwamitra asks the king, give me Rama. He's 60 years of age. Give me Rama, give me Lakshmana. I have a problem in the forest. And the king also says, no, I'll give you anything else. I'll send my whole army. No, you said you'd give me everything. You'd said, whatever I wanted, you will give me. Now you're going back on your promise? This is not kingly. Will you shamelessly confess to other kings that you went back on your promise? Yes, Kaikeyi saved me from death and I gave her a promise, but later I was sorry. I gave it and I broke it. What else could you tell them? All monarchs will shun you as a disgrace to their order. And common people will laugh in scorn at their rulers and say, kings break promises even when given to their queens. Same thing. Politicians break promises once they've gotten their foot in the door. Don't expect kings to keep their word. Do you not know that Sabya, to redeem the pledge he gave to a bird, cut the very flesh off his bones and gave it away? Have you not heard of a Larka who plucked his eyes out to keep his word? The sea stays within its limits and doesn't overflow the land because it feels bound by its agreement. Don't violate your solemn pledge. Follow the path of your royal ancestors. Oh, I fear that you, their unworthy descendant, will forsake dharma. We have to explain more fully this word dharma, what it means. And I repeat what it means. It is essentially that binding force that holds everything together in harmony. So there is a social dharma. There is a person-to-person dharma. There is a physical health dharma. There is rules and regulations in ruling and governing society. That is dharma. There is a role that you have to fulfill. This is also called dharma. There are laws in the universe that keep everything in harmony and balance. This is also called dharma. And in order to do this, morals and ethics has to be maintained. This also is dharma. For this reason, often dharma is equated to religion, the thing that keeps things regular. So, what do you care? What do you care? What happens to dharma? What do you care? What happens to satya? If you deny me the gifts you promised, on absolute oath, sacred oath, I shall this very night drink poison and end my life. Well, you see, with this last statement, this last threat, knowing that the king, no matter what he feels about her now, still loves her, of course, deeply. And of course, look at the scandal, but she's quite serious, emotional. You may anoint and install Rama, but before your eyes, O promise breaker, I shall be dead in front of everybody. This is certain. I swear it in the name of Bharata. This is equally a valid promise. It will be well and good if you fulfill your promise and banish Rama to the forest. Else I shall end my life. And with this firm declaration, Kaikeyi stopped. Dasaratha now stood speechless, staring at his pitiless wife. Was this loving creature really Kaikeyi that he loved so much? Or a demon that has possessed her? Or has she been transformed into a demon? Then, like a huge tree felled by a forester, says Valmiki, with his axe, the king shook and toppled down and lay stretched unconscious on the floor in pitiful ruin. I just refer to the text a little bit here. What matters, what others think. All that should matter is Rama. So that's okay, whatever others speak. Ethics is Rama and truth is Rama. Anyway, what other things matter? Well, Dharma, Rama is an upholder of Dharma. If we were to consult Rama now and ask what he should do, should he fulfill his promise or not? Let us see what the upholder of Dharma himself would say. Anyway, regaining his senses, having completely fell under the physical and psychological distress he was suffering from. He spoke in a low voice, Kaikayi, who has corrupted your mind to see me dead and our race destroyed? What evil spirit has possessed you and makes you dance in this shameful fashion? Do you really think that Bharata will agree to be king after sending Rama to the forest? Have you considered this? He never will, and you know it. Can I possibly bear to tell Rama to go to the forest? Will not the kings of the world despise me, saying, this uxorious old dotard has banished his eldest son, the best of men? This is the counter-argument that is being brought up also in the text. Don't you see that they would laugh at me? It's easy enough for you to say, send Rama to the forest. But can Kausalya or I survive his departure, his own mother and me? And have you thought of Janaka's daughter? Would it not kill her to hear that Rama is to go away to the Dandaka forest? Cheated by your face, I thought you a woman who took you for my wife. Like a deluded man tempted by the flavor of poisoned wine, I was lured by your beauty into marrying you. And like a deer ensnared by a hunter, I'm caught in your net and perish. Like a drunken Brahmana in the streets, I shall be universally despised. Imagine somebody who's supposed to be the epitome, the great example, the exemplar of high moral living, saying you should never drink alcohol to excess, and he's drunk in the street. This is the example given. So he himself is making a defense. Boons, what boons have you demanded? Boons that forever will taint the fame of our dynasty. It'll taint our dynasty with ignominy, of lustful dotage, and that have driven an old fool to the banishment of a beloved and peerless son. So if I tell Rama to go to the forest, yes, he will cheerfully obey, because he's a dutiful son and committed to truthfulness and to saving my honor. And he'll go to the forest, but myself and then Kausalya and Sumitra, we will die. Your own husband will die. How will you enjoy the kingdom thus secured? O sinful, foolish woman, how? And will Bharata agree to your plans? If he does agree, then he shall not perform my obsequies, my funeral rites. That will be clear. I will forbid him. O shameless woman, my life's enemy, kill your husband and attain widowhood to enjoy the kingdom with your son. Oh, how sinful are women, and how pitiless. Now he's generalized. All women are sinful and pitiless. No, only this woman is cruel. Oh, how sinful are women and how pitiless, not all. Only you. Why should I insult other women? What a pity that my Bharata should have this monster for a mother. No, I can never do this. Kaikeyi, I fall at your feet and beg you, have some pity on me. So he's bringing out all the arguments and counter-arguments that are coming, such as, what matters what other people think, what does it matter, and so on. The king rolled on the ground and writhed in agony. What shall I say of this scene, says Valmiki. A great emperor, famous for his long, glorious reign, crying and rolling on the ground, clasping his wife's feet and begging for mercy. So this is the difficulty. No matter how humbly he begs, Kaikeyi is obstinate. She says firmly, you have yourself boasted that you are a truth speaker, but now having sworn before the gods that you have granted a boon, you attempt to retract your promise. If you break your word, I shall surely kill myself, she says again, and that will not add greatly to the glory of your dynasty, of which you are so proud. So, what to do? Eventually, Dasaratha says, very well then, let Rama go to the forest and let me die. Having destroyed me and my race, a jubilant widow, you will gain your wish and seek joy in your life. This is the final comment. And again, after a while, he backs it up and puts further arguments to this. What good will you gain by sending Rama to the forest? Let's apply some reason to this. I fail to see this. The only result will be that the whole world will despise you. After many years of prayer and penance, I had Rama by the grace of God, and him I now banish to the forest? Oh, I, most wretched of people. Lifting his eyes to the sky, he says, O night, stay on, for when you pass and day dawns, what shall I do? What shall I say to those eager crowds who, full of love for Rama, are waiting for the coronation festivities? O heavens, he says, stay still for my sake with your stars. No, no, stay not, for then I must keep looking at this sinful woman. Depart at once, O night, so that I may escape this face. The beautiful poetic language Valmiki puts out to enhance this tragic scene. Thus delirious and conscious by turns, the poor old man suffered agony. A king who had reigned for 60,000 years, according to some. Pity me, Kaikeyi. Forget the harsh things I uttered in anger. I'm taking them all back. Anger, people say many things in anger. I beg you in the name of love, the love that you bore me. You may take it that I have given the kingdom to you, the whole thing. It's yours. You can give it with your own hands to Rama and see that the coronation goes through. Come on, change your mind now. Now, the king now has decided, or the Raja Sabha, the Royal Assembly decided, and I have announced to the elders already that Rama is going to have a coronation tomorrow. And I'm asking you, please, nicely now, that this announcement doesn't fall away, that my announcement doesn't become false. The whole thing is weighed up. What is true? What is the right thing to do? What is dharma in this issue? The most difficult circumstance. Again, have pity on me. Give the kingdom as your own to Rama. The fame of this magnanimous gift will last as long as the world endures. My wish, the people's wish, the elders' wish, Bharata's wish, they're all that Rama should be crowned. So do this, my love, my life. Now the whole thing has changed around. And again the king clings to the feet of Kaikeyi. But she's unmoved, and she answers, have done with this foolery. See that you do not break your word and drive me to keep mine and kill myself. It's useless for you to try to evade. You see, this is not just a drama set thousands of years ago. It's a real issue. We come across all these various dilemmas from time to time, divided loyalties, what to do, difficult circumstances, what is the right way. Anyway, the king says, with due rites and in the presence of fire, I took your hand and called you my wife. And here and now I renounce you. Effectively, he divorces her. And with you, the son you bore, I'll have nothing to do with Bharata, my own son. Night is gone, the dawn is near, and the morning will see not Rama's coronation, but my funeral. Kaikeyi cut him short. Before you go on with all of this, you're prattling vainly. Send at once for Rama. Let him come here. Tell him the kingdom's Bharatas and he should go to the forest. Keep your promise. Don't waste time. It's easy. Just do it. Oh, Dasaratha groans and concedes. Very well. Let me at last set eyes on Rama's face. My own death is near. Let Rama come. Let me see his face before I die. And tied down by Dharma, this old fool is helpless. And again, he fell unconscious. You can easily see how events radically and rapidly turn in day-to-day life. How what is smooth and well planned suddenly changes and the whole thing disrupts. The joyous day turns into a dark and sinister night. So poor Dasaratha now was in extreme anger, we know, and pulled by natural affection on one side and the moral obligation to fulfill a pledge on the other. He had fondly hoped that Kaikeyi would relent, that somehow the conflict of duties would be resolved, but now he saw that this wasn't to be. And just as you're asking in comments, this is a good time to yourself reflect. If you were in this situation, what would you do? Because there are many positions in life like this, what to do. He'd fondly hoped that Kaikeyi would relent and that somehow the conflict of duties would be resolved. But now he sees that this is not to be. Still, there was a glimmer of faint hope. Maybe Rama is in no way bound by my promises and pledges. Maybe that's a way out. Maybe he will say, I understand your wish, but in the light of reasoning, I'm not going to go. Maybe he had that faint glimmer of hope left. But strong as he is in people's love and in his peerless prowess, he may disregard my promise and stand on his own rights. But I cannot conceive him doing this, because for the slightest wish has always been sacred to him. My slightest wish has always been sacred to him. Yet if by some chance he manages to do so, it will save the situation. This is our only hope now, our only way out. And in the confusion and anguish of his heart, the old king consoles himself with these kinds of false hopes, forgetting for a moment that Rama would never even think of disregarding his father's promise, and that filial obedience was a fundamental rule of his life. So now this is Rama's point of view. But the false hopes didn't persist long, and he felt that his death was near, and in this agonizing conflict of duties, death actually would be a relief for him and save him from the disruption and sorrows to come. And so as death draws near, his mind recalls past events. He remembers the great sin committed by him in his youth. He felt that he was now reaping what he then sowed. He recalls, I killed the Rishi's son and brought grief to his aged parents. How could this sin be wiped off except by my suffering the anguish of losing my dear son? Thus, in this way, Dasaratha resigns himself to his fate as just retribution for the wrong he had once done. We all have to think, if anyone is to blame, maybe it is ourselves. When we repeat Shanti, Shanti, Shanti 3 times, it is firstly because difficulties are caused by our own course or relationships. And then maybe difficulties are caused by others. And then finally, difficulties exist in the world. It's just the fact of it. So he concludes that he has no other alternative. Now he has to fulfill his word to his cruel wife, by now his ex-wife, and left the ordering of things entirely to Kaikeyi. You carry it out. So the day dawns, the hour fixed for the coronation is approaching. The procession with Vasishta and his disciples carrying the golden vessels containing the waters of all the holy rivers, they come towards the palace. The great street, which was decorated and crowded with eager people, men and women, rejoicing to see Vasishta and his disciples march to the palace with the holy waters. And the paraphernalia of the installation, and they see the honey, the curds, the clarified butter, the fried rice, the sacred grass, the flowers, the maidens, the elephants, the horses, the chariots, the white umbrella, the bull, the horse, the tiger skin. All of these things are the components necessary for a royal coronation. And all the music that is there, the bands. And the people make loud and jubilant acclamations, and they fill the air with this, completely unaware of the events going on. Vasishta approaches the palace gate, and there he sees Sumantra and says to him, pray go in at once and inform the king that the people are waiting, and all the preparations are now complete. And Sumantra approaches the king's bedchamber, and chanting the morning hymn, conveys Vasishta's message. O king, arise from your sleep to the hymn of your charioteer, as the king of the gods does to Martali's awakening songs. Even in courtrooms, royal courtrooms, only 100 years ago, so 200 years ago, actually more, 200, 300, 400 years ago, there was somebody whose job was to awaken the royal person in the bedchamber. May all the gods be gracious unto you. The elders, generals, and chief citizens are waiting for your darshan, your sacred sight. The goddess of night has withdrawn. The day's work awaits your ordering. O King of Kings, be pleased to rise. Holy Vasishta and his men, they are waiting. And at that moment, the king was speechless with agony. But Kaikeyi boldly answered for him. It was all up to her now. And she tells Sumantra, the king spent the night talking of Rama's coronation and had to sleep. So now he is in a slumber. Go at once and bring Rama. And thus the clever woman sent Sumantra to fetch Rama to convey the king's command. She knew that Dasaratha had agreed, but he didn't have the strength to do what he had to do. And so Kaikeyi resolved that she herself would do what needed to be done. And there we leave it there. We leave you all in suspense to see what happens next. So we'll see the drama as it unfolds. Of course, in a generalized version of the story, we can bypass the drama. But what a pity. How beautifully Valmiki sets out the scene and highlights that this could be the dilemma of all dilemmas. And instead of avoiding problems, what should we do to face them? Are we equipped to do it? Do we have the strength to take difficult decisions? Do we have the courage to do it? We'll see how the story unfolds the next time. All right. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Thanks.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Swami.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Purnananda, Swami.
Guru Mahagat.
Merci beaucoup, Swami.
Merci beaucoup.
Om